of non-English words, and the continuance of messing up the dialogue of the Angel of the Odd. But in fairness, I think it adds a little bit of charm and quality to its character. So let's drop into it. The Angel of the Odd, Part 2. This accident, with the loss of my insurance and with the more serious loss of my hair, the whole world of which had been singed off by the fire, predisposed me to serious impressions, so that finally I made up my mind to take a wife. There was a rich widow, disconsolate for the loss of her seventh husband, and to her wounded spirit I offered the balm of my vows. She yielded a reluctant consent to my prayers. I knelt at her feet in gratitude and adoration. She blushed and bowed her luxuriant dress into close contact with those supplied me temporarily by Gratgine. I know not how the entanglement took place, but so it was. I arose with a shining pate, wigless, and she in disdain and wrath half buried in alien hair. Thus ended my hopes of the widow by an accident, which could not have been anticipated, to be sure, but which the natural sequence of events had brought about. Without despairing, however, I undertook the siege of a less impalpable heart. The fates were again propitious for a brief period, but again a trivial incident interfered. Meeting my betrothed in an avenue thronged with the elite of the city, I was hastening to greet her with one of my best considered bows, when a small particle of some foreign matter, lodged in the corner of my eye, rendered me for the moment completely blind. But before I could recover my sight, the lady of my love had disappeared, irreparably affronted at what she chose to consider my premeditated rudeness in passing her by ungreeted, while I stood bewildered at the suddenness of this accident, which might have happened nevertheless to anyone under the sun. And while I still continued my incapable of sight, I was accosted by the Angel of the Odd, who proffered me his aid with a civility which I had no reason to expect. He had examined my disordered eye with much gentleness and skill, informed me that I had a drop in it, and whatever a drop was, took it out, and afforded me relief. I now considered it high time to die, since fortune had so determined to persecute me, and accordingly made my way to the nearest river. Here, devastating myself of my clothes, for there is no reason why we cannot die as we were born, I threw myself headlong into the current, the sole witness of my fate being a solitary crow that had been seduced into eating of the brandy-saturated corn, so had staggered away from his fellows. No sooner had I entered the water than this bird it took in his head to fly away with the most indispensable portion of my apparel, postponing therefore the present my my suicidal design, I just slipped my nether extremities into the sleeve of my coat and betook myself into pursuit of the felon with all the nimbleness which the case required and its circumstances would admit. But by evil destiny attended me still, as I ran at full speed with my nose up in the atmosphere and the intent only upon the proprietor of the property. I suddenly perceived that my feet rested no longer upon terra firma. The fact is, I had thrown myself over a precipice, and should have inevitably had been dashed to pieces but for the good fortune in grasping the end of a long guide rope which depended from a passing balloon. As soon as I sufficiently recovered my senses to comprehend the terrific predicament in which I stood, or rather hung, I exerted all the power of my lungs to make that predicament known to the aeronaut overhead, but for a long time I exerted myself in vain. Either the fool could not, or the villain would not perceive me. Meanwhile the machine rapidly soared, while my strength even more rapidly failed. I was soon upon the point of resigning myself to my fate and dropping quietly into the sea, when my spirits were suddenly relieved by hearing a hollow voice from above, which seemed to be lazily humming an opera air. Looking up, I perceived the angel of the odd. He was leaning with his arms folded over the rim of the car, and with a pipe in his mouth, at which he puffed leisurely, seemed to be upon excellent terms with himself and the universe. I was too much exhausted to speak, so I merely regarded him with an imploding air. For several minutes, although he looked at me full in the face and said nothing, at length, removing carefully from his meerschaum from the right to the left corner of his mouth, he conceded to speak. "Who be you?" he asked, "and what do truffle do you be do dare?" To this piece of impudence, cruelty, and affliction I could only reply by ejaculating the monosyllable "help." "Help!" echoed the ruffian, "not I. There's thee but help yourself, un be damned." With these words he let fall a heavy bottle of liquor, which, dropping precisely upon the crown of my head, caused me to imagine that my brains were entirely knocked out. Impressed with this idea, I was about to relinquish my hold and give up the ghost with a good grace, when I was arrested by the cry of the angel, who bade me to hold on. "Hold on," said he. "Don't be hurry, don't. Will you be take the other bottle, or have you become sober yet and come to your senses?" I made haste hereupon to nod my head twice, once in the negative, meaning thereby I would prefer not taking the other bottle at present, and one affirmative, indicating thus to imply that I was sober and that I had positively come to my senses. By these means I somewhat softened the angel. "Do you believe then?" he inquired, at the last. assent, and you have believe in me, the angel of the odd. I nodded again. And you acknowledge that you be the blind, drunk, und die fool. I nodded once more. Put your right hand into your left breeches pocket then, in token of your full submission unto the angel of the odd. This thing, for very obvious reasons, I found it quite impossible to do. In the first place, my left arm had been broken in the fall from the ladder, and therefore I had to let go. My hold with the right hand, I must let go altogether. In the second place, I could have no breeches until I came across the crow. I was therefore obliged to much regret to shake my head in the negative, indicating thus to give the angel understand that I found it in covenant just at the moment to comply with a very reasonable demand. No sooner, however, had I ceased shaking my head than "Go der de truffle den," roared Angel of the Odd. In pronouncing these words, he drew a sharp knife across the guide rope by which I was suspended, and as we happened to be precisely over my own house, which during my precognitions had been handsomely rebuilt, it so occurred that I tumbled headlong down the ample chimney and lit upon the dining-room hearth. Upon coming to my senses, for the fall had very thoroughly stunned me, I found it about 4 o'clock in the morning. I lay outstretched where I had fallen from the balloon. My head groveled in the ashes of an extinguished